to find out a few years later that based on what the federal government, the case that the federal government has, is that that very same son, Tim, the federal government says that he put a $450,000 life insurance policy on his own nephew.
Let's talk about insurance scammers. Now, the reason why I want to talk about the insurance scammers is because this was a way of transferring debt or transferring generational wealth towards the next generation. Insurance, paying for your prepaying for your funeral. But not only that, when grandmama died, the house got paid off.
Right.
Then you had a little leftover money. Y'all could do what you want to do with that. But it kept the money going, not only at your death, and it also didn't leave an enormous amount of creditor debt on yourself. Now we talk about Sweetie Pie. Now this was a different type of scamming, right?
Man, it's a sad story. It's a sad story. So a little bit of background for people to understand what we're talking about here. I'm, once again, proud St. Louis boy, born and bred in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, right? And for those of you who are familiar with, there was a show on the Oprah Winfrey Network that ran for like 7 seasons, I believe. Welcome to Sweetie Pies. It was a reality-based show based on a soul food restaurant. They had about 3 or 4 restaurants in the area that was owned by Miss Robbie Montgomery. She was an ex-backup singer for Ike and Tina Turner, right? I mean, the story sounds great, right? You have this woman who was a background singer for Ike and Tina Turner. She starts and opens up a soul food restaurant. The restaurant starts to thrive and does good. And then she has her son who had a criminal history and was in jail for, most of his youth. Then he comes out of the prison system and then becomes the general manager of the store, and to see the conflicts and the winning of this family dynamic was a hit show for about 7 seasons, right? Everything's good. But
syndicated show.
We come to find out a few years later that based on what the federal government, the case that the federal government has, is that that very same son, Tim, the federal government says that he put a $450,000 life insurance policy on his own nephew, his older brother's son. His older brother is passed. So his older brother's son, where his older brother is now gone, he put a $450,000 life insurance policy on him. And within 2 years of him getting that life insurance policy, according to the federal government, he hired someone to murder him. We saw that murder on the show, right? That murder happened in real time. We saw it on the show. We saw that Andre Montgomery, the grandson of Miss Robbie, we saw him get murdered. The kid actually went to my high school. Now, I'm much older than him, so it's not like we ever met. Let me be clear here. But he actually graduated from the same high school I graduated from, just to show you how small St. Louis is. And during those events of the show, everybody was wondering, like, how was he murdered? Why was he murdered? But to find out years later, after the show was off the air, that this was a murder for hire plot by one of the stars of the show, his own family member, is crazy. And then when everything comes to the end, Tim never got the insurance money. And if he would have just came to my office for 10 minutes, not talking about murder clearly, but talking about this insurance policy, I would have been able to explain to him the insurance is never going to pay out. Because in order for you to get an insurance policy on someone else, there's a couple of things that has to happen. Number one, you have to have an insurable interest, meaning if that person dies, how does that impact you financially? If that person dying has no impact on you financially, then it really doesn't make sense for you to be able to get insurance on that person. That's number one. Number two, you have to get permission from the person. You can't just get a life insurance policy on somebody, even if you do have an insurable interest in them. You can't just get it without their permission. So that's strike number 2. He was never, ever, ever, ever going to get paid out this money. And for the third part is, you can't, like, I can't say I'm gonna get a $10 million policy on eBlack. Let's say me and eBlack are partners in a business.
Yeah.
And you know, when he dies, I don't want his wife or his significant other to be my new partner. He's my partner, but I don't want whoever is the beneficiary of his estate to be my partner. So you can get what's referred to as a buy-sell agreement for a partnership. So if he happens to die prematurely, I got a life insurance policy, I pay off his wife or whoever, and then now I own the company 100%, right?
Yeah.
But here's the deal. The insurance policy has to have some sort of foundation in reality of what this life is worth, right? I can't get a $10 million insurance policy on eBlack if the interest in the business that he has is only $100,000.
Yeah.
It doesn't add up. And the problem with this whole case was not to put a dollar value on someone's life, but that's basically what you're doing when you get life insurance.
Yeah.
Andre Montgomery, the victim of the murder for hire plot, his life wasn't worth $450,000. They lied on the application for the insurance policy, talking about how much money he had and stuff like that. All of these were lies.
But he was like 20 years old, right?
Exactly. He was a young guy who didn't have a lot of money. He didn't have a lot of resources. So the $450,000 policy would have never been paid out, even if he died of natural causes. The policy, the insurance company would have never paid it out because you have to substantiate, you have to prove the stuff that was in the application before they pay you out. So it's just a sad story from beginning to end. It's a sad story.